Imagine waking up on January 1st. You don't go to work. You don't check emails. You don't grind. You spend the year traveling, reading, or finally learning how to play that guitar gathering dust in the corner. By December 31st, your net worth has grown by $100,000. That isn't a fantasy or a get-rich-quick scheme. It is the cold, boring reality of what happens when you reach $1 million invested in a standard S&P 500 index fund during a typical 10% market year. At this level, your money has officially started earning a salary that puts it in the top 10% of American households, and it didn't take a single sick day. Most people treat the $1 million mark like a finish line at the end of the race, where you get the gold medal and stop running. But they're wrong. $1 million isn't the end. It's the point where the laws of physics in your financial life actually change. It's where the math finally wins, and your effort becomes secondary to your capital. Today, we're going behind the curtain of the 7-figure milestone. We're going to break down the rule of 72 math that makes your second million feel like a walk in the park, the psychological millionaire paradox that almost no one warns you about, and the 3 behavioral traps that can destroy a 7-figure portfolio faster than you built it. If you're anywhere on the path, whether you're at 10K or 900K, you need to understand the game you're actually playing. Because once you hit $1 million, the rules change forever. The math shift, the rule of 72, and the easy million. Let's start with the math, because the math is the only thing that doesn't have an ego. When you're building your first 100K, or even your first 500K, you are the engine. Your savings rate is the primary driver of your wealth. But at $1 million, the engine switches from contributions to compounding. To understand why, we use the rule of 72. The rule of 72 is a simple formula to estimate how long it takes for an investment to double, where T is the time in years and R is the annual rate of return. If we assume a conservative 7% inflation-adjusted return, your money doubles every 10.2 years. Look at what this does to $1 million portfolio. Year 0, $1 million. Year 10, $2 million. Year 20, $4 million. Year 30, $8 million. Think about that. It likely took you 15, 20, maybe 25 years of grinding to save that first million. You fought for every dollar. But the second million? That arrives in about 10 years without you adding a single cent. The third and fourth million? They arrive in roughly 7 years after that. This is what CNBC and Vanguard call the acceleration effect. As your balance grows, the doubling happens on a much larger base. Moving from 100K to 200K adds 100K to your net worth. Moving from 1 million to 2 million adds an entire million. This is why the rich get richer. It isn't a conspiracy, it's a doubling function. At $1 million, you have reached critical mass. You are no longer pushing the boulder. The boulder is rolling downhill, and your only job is to stay out of the way. The cash flow reality, the invisible salary. But it's not just about the total balance, it's about the cash flow. At $1 million, your portfolio stops being a savings account and starts being a revenue stream. Even if you aren't a dividend investor, meaning you just hold a broad market fund like VTI or VOO, you are likely generating a yield of around 1.5 to 2%. On a $1 million portfolio, that is $15,000 to $20,000 a year in pure cash, just for owning the companies. If you shift slightly toward a more income-focused portfolio, say a 3.5% yield, you're looking at $35,000 a year. For most people in the United States, $3,333 a month covers a mortgage, groceries, and insurance. This is the safety net that nobody tells you about. Even if you never quit your job, knowing that your portfolio can cover your basic human needs for the rest of your life changes how you walk, how you talk, and how you deal with stress. You no longer need the promotion. You no longer need to tolerate a toxic boss. The portfolio provides a base layer of freedom that allows you to take risks that normal people simply can't afford to take. You become a predator in the market, buying when others are panicking because your cash flow is guaranteed by the 500 largest companies on Earth. The psychology, the millionaire paradox. Now let's talk about the part that gets weird, the psychology. I've spent years talking to people who hit this milestone, and they all report the same thing, the millionaire paradox. The paradox is this: you spent 20 years thinking that hitting $1 million would make you feel invincible, luxurious, or done. But when the number finally hits 7 figures, most people feel exactly the same. Or worse, they feel more anxious. Why? Because when you have $50,000 and the market drops 10%, you lose $5,000. It stings, but you move on. When you have $1 million and the market drops 10%, which happens almost every year, you lose $100,000. Seeing a 6-figure loss in a single week is a gut punch that most people aren't prepared for. This is where your risk tolerance is truly tested. At $1 million, you stop being a wealth builder and you become a capital allocator. Your primary emotion shifts from greed, how much can I make, to preservation, how much can I lose? This is why Fidelity's 2024 Millionaire Outlook found that the wealthiest investors are actually the most boring. They trade less. They check their accounts less. They have realized that at this scale, the biggest threat to their wealth isn't the market, it's their own index finger. Wait, what about the lifestyle? People expect you to drive a certain car or live in a certain house once you're a millionaire. But the reality of $1 million today, especially in 2026, is that it's comfortable, not cribs level wealth. If you spend the million on a Ferrari, you no longer have the million. The smartest 7-figure earners I know still drive Toyotas and buy their clothes at Costco because they value the 100K annual growth more than the 100K status symbol. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the optionality. It's the no you get to say to things you don't want to do. The retention. 3 traps that kill $1 million. You've reached the summit. You're at $1 million. Now, how do you lose it? Because it happens more often than you think. Trap 1. The expert delusion. When you hit $1 million, you start to think you're a genius. You think, I'm so good at investing, I should stop doing the boring index funds and start picking winners. You move into private equity, angel investing, or leveraged crypto. Complexity is the enemy of a 7-figure portfolio. The math that got you to $1 million, which is consistency plus index funds, is the same math that gets you to $10 million. Don't let your ego break the machine. Trap 2. Lifestyle Creep 2.0. Most people avoid lifestyle creep at 100K, but at 1 million, they buckle. They buy the forever home with the massive property tax and the $5,000 a month maintenance cost. Suddenly, that $1 million portfolio, which was supposed to provide freedom, is being drained just to keep the lights on in a house that's too big for them. Trap 3. The safe withdrawal fallacy. The 4% rule is a great guideline, but it's not a law. If you hit $1 million and immediately quit your job and start withdrawing 4% during a market downturn, you risk sequence of returns risk. Smart millionaires keep a cash buffer or a bucket system, which we've talked about before. They never want to be forced to sell their growth engine when it's on sale. The acceleration, the road to $5 million. Let's look at the finish line, or rather, the new starting line. Once you cross $1 million, you've entered the steep part of the curve. You invest $2,000 a month at 8%. At first, it feels slow. 100K takes about 4 years. $1 million takes around 22 years. Most people quit here. But if you don't, the second million? Just 6 more years. By the 5th million, you're adding millions in about 4 years. Same money, same returns. The only difference is time. Early on, you're doing the work. Later, your money does it for you. The more you have, the faster it grows. The hardest work you will ever do in your financial life is the work you are doing right now to get to that first 7-figure mark. If you're at $100,000 today, you are likely frustrated. You feel like you're doing everything right and nothing is happening. But you aren't failing, you're just building the base. You are creating the mass required for the gravity of compounding to take over. Once that mass hits $1 million, the math becomes unstoppable. You don't have to be a hero anymore, you just have to be patient. Reaching $1 million isn't about the money, it's about the evidence. It is the evidence that you are disciplined, that you understand time, and that you have mastered your own impulses. If you hit that number, you haven't just bought a balance, you've bought a new version of yourself. A version that is no longer a slave to the wage, but a steward of the future. So, I want to ask you, what is your number? Is it 1 million? Is it 2.5 million? And more importantly, what is the first thing you're gonna do when the compounding math starts earning more than you do? Drop your target in the comments. I read every single one, and seeing the goals of this community is what keeps this channel going. If you want to see the exact point to when your financial decisions are working with minimum stress, watch this video next. I'll see you in the next one.